Well, 6:30, have the meeting come to order, please. First order of business, public comment. If you want to speak, raise your hand. You will be recognized by the chair. 3 minutes, name and address, and speak to the board. Anybody want to make a public comment? Massive audience that we have here tonight, that's for sure. Thank you. Let's move on. What happened to 3?
Denise forgot how to count.
Okay.
Oh my God.
3 is gone.
Okay.
It's Mr. Brown.
I'm number 3.
No, you'll be number 3.
Mr. Brown.
Oh, I'm number, okay, and it is number 3.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'm going to write you
So
in.
I just wanted to inform the board that I have taken a full-time position with a company. I do not expect that it will interfere with any of my selectmen duties. It is a foreign company. But I fully expect that I'd still be able to perform my selectman duties. However, if I cannot, I will advise the board and I will resign.
Are you stationed here?
I am stationed
Okay.
here. I'll be going back and forth to Switzerland periodically, but other than that, yes, I am stationed.
I'm glad to hear that you're going to stick around for a while. Thank you.
And the town administrator will probably need to accompany him on his trip to Switzerland.
Where is she going with this one?
No, it'd be nice to go to Switzerland.
Okay, next order of business, Mr. Gintberg, Recreation Commissioner and Chair. Please come forward. Welcome.
Thank you. My request tonight is for encumbering the balance of our budget to utilize for the landscaping project at Little River Park. Taxpayers approved the withdrawal of the $7,000 from the trust fund so that we can start on that in the fall. The only problem that we're having is that since we can't make contracts or anything like that, and we don't have any contracts in place yet, I'm hoping that the select board can find a way to allow us to encumber the balance if that's the way we use it towards the landscaping. I do have some quotes from the Tuckaway that I received this morning with some recommendations of trees and costs and so on. We have run into a little bit of an issue which will cause some extra expense, which has to do with irrigation. The problem is there is no soil over there, so anything we plant, we have to put compost in, and then we have to irrigate it. So we have to get some sort of irrigation into the area, which we haven't really decided yet, where we're going to be planting trees. That's part of what we're going to be working on this summer, is coming up with a plan there. But we're going to need I think we're going to need every bit of money that we can get a hold of in order to get as much done as possible come fall. The planning schedule would be for the fall, which is recommended by the Tuckaway. So that's what I'm here for this evening.
We normally have to have contracts or something to transfer the money like this.
By state statute.
It's by state statute.
Okay.
Do we have time? If
If
Larry
we-
was to get a contract?
Yeah, if we had something by a purchase order or a contract, even an invoice, by June 30th, then we can use the money for it.
Well, could we do have this quote here with the recommended trees that the Tuckaway is recommending, and they do have discounts in every town and so on. We do have that $500 gift certificate for them and so on. And this amounts to probably a little bit more than what we have available.
You got 7,500, is that available?
No, as far as the encumbering, it's about $4,000.
It's about $4,000.
Roughly.
How about this? I'm just going to throw it on the table. Can we make a motion to allow Larry to move ahead on the condition that he has a contract in hand by
June 30th.
June 30th. Then we'll encumber the funds.
Okay. Then I would have the approval of the select board to get that contract with Pawtuckaway specifically for what we have here?
Yes,
Use this as the guideline?
yes.
Okay. I'll get that done.
But the town administrator would have to also review the contract, would she not?
Well, I'm assuming it's just the purchase of trees, right?
It's the purchase of trees, and we haven't really come to the point of who's going to install them or how we're going to do that, but that's in this.
Wouldn't you have Pawtuckaway do the installation?
That would be the
They
preference.
normally
I mean,
do.
usually, in my experience, you want to have the company that you buy the tree from,
Exactly.
plant the tree.
But you also need to get something going on irrigation, do you not?
Well, we do, but if we,
I mean, he could put in a drip system. I'm
well,
just
no,
saying.
Randy and I have been going back and forth on this, and I think that the most recent thing we have is that we're gonna have to get some sort of metering system for that, which may or may not be possible. I don't know if you've got an update on. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's a wrinkle that we have.
So
to
that wouldn't
work
be
out.
included in the.
That's not part of this,
Okay, but would you go ahead and plant the trees if you didn't
No.
have?
no.
Okay.
We've gotta have some sort of watering
Yeah,
system for the
exactly.
trees,
So my thought in this is to approve it up to 4,000, which is the money that's available at this
or
time.
whatever the balance is, or whatever the balance is in the.
Can you give me something?
Well, it was $4,239.22 as of June 13th. I don't know whether there's any other little expenses that are going to come in or not, so.
Yeah, I don't know of any. We do have movie night coming up, and I think that's pretty much all covered, so.
Well, even if you had expenses from movie night, those could be taken out of the revolving fund.
Correct. Yeah, we do have a bit of money in the revolving fund. I'm not worried about that part of it. It's just basically the balance of the budget that we have. So I can go ahead, I'll get a hold of
Well,
Pawtuckaway.
let me make a motion at this point. I move that we allow the Recreation Commission to spend up to the available amount that's already in
The operating budget.
the operating budget, on the condition that a contract is signed or a purchase order or something
Mhm.
that allows to come with the funds
By June 30th.
by June 30th. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, I see some angst down there.
No, I have no angst, I have a question.
Please.
So is this to augment the 7,000 that was already set aside?
Yes,
Because that becomes available July 1st, right?
that becomes available July 1st, yes.
So you think the whole project is gonna cost $11,000 then?
Well, we don't know what the irrigation's gonna cost yet.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of, the 7,000 was basically, the initial plan was to use that 7,000 to purchase as many trees and shrubs and so on, get them planted. But then the irrigation thing might cost us a bit more.
Okay.
So by utilizing that, getting the purchase order for this, and they are also estimating, what is it here? The planting labor is 65 to 70% of the cost of the plant material. It's on page 3 and 4. So again, there would be, what we would have encumbered would not cover everything here.
At least the monies will be available to you.
Monies would be available, so I just didn't want to lose that.
And I agree.
Okay.
Okay, let me just make sure I understand, or everybody understands. So you will need an actual contract for $4,000. So
Purchase order.
purchase order, contract, right, but it would have to be $4,000 to a specific entity. So if you could get Pawtuckaway to give you a contract for $4,000 by June 30th, then we're fine.
Okay, and that contract would basically read to provide whatever the 4,000.
Whatever it'll get you to be installed in the future date, so
Right,
forth.
in
so
the
on.
fall. Yes.
I would suggest that there be some caveat to that's dependent upon having an irrigation system put in.
Mhm.
So in other words, we don't want to be held to a purchase of trees and shrubs, and then for some reason we somehow can't get the
Get the
irrigation
irrigation
system put
Right.
in. we don't want to have the trees delivered if we don't have the irrigation system.
Exactly.
So it would need to be contingent upon the town of Lee installing an irrigation system.
And Mark made that very specific.
Right,
caveat
so,
in here.
pretty sure, the money will hold until next June 30th, so.
That works.
Any other questions?
So I would just suggest that you two work together to get what the town needs to do that, so whatever language and.
Yeah, Julie, if you have anything specific I should put in there, if you could just email me
Yep.
tomorrow morning, I'll put it together with Mark.
Yep.
Any motions on the floor? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
If I could just take a minute to state the,
Please.
Saturday night is our first outdoor movie night, and we have everything pretty much all set for that. It will start at dusk, until about 8:30, and the movie will be The Never-Ending Story. We still haven't picked one for the fall yet. We're hashing that out.
Nice black and white?
I said, well, you know, we kind of thought that route, but, you know,
Yeah.
getting a lot of input. The screen size is going to be 16 foot by 16 foot, so it'll be pretty big.
Wow.
And I'm coordinating with Jim Banks as far as the power and everything there. We'll have popcorn there, which will be no charge to the public, so that'll be available. And then our next function will be on July 22nd, which will be Model Rocket Day. And we've already accumulated the materials that we need for that, so that's about it.
Thank you very much. Very good.
So,
Good luck.
do we need to have any further discussion with the board about the potential for mosquito spraying?
Well, as I understand it, it's gonna be a ruckus over that, and I don't have time to fight over it, so it's too short a time
Well,
period, so
I'm-
we'll just let the taxpayers
Just tell
speak when
everybody.
they get eaten
I'm
up.
not sure that ruckus
No help.
is the word I would use. At the very least, the select board would have to approve a mosquito spraying project.
Mhm.
Or not project, but any mosquito spraying. And again, I would strongly suspect that the select board would want the input of the Conservation Commission. And then, again, what little I was able to glean this afternoon, I mean, there's obviously a permitting process. I'm not exactly sure whether the town has to apply for that or the sprayer has to apply for that specific to the town and the purpose. But I suspect that it would take more than 5 days, even if the board and the Conservation Commission approved it. So,
So that's
We
why
should-
it's a moot point as far as.
But
We
we're
should
concerned
just
with this.
advise everybody to bring some repellent. So you have 4 people
that
spraying
in
1
the
ounce
brine?
instead of 400 ounces coming out of one sprayer. That's what you
There you
get.
go, yeah. Still gets the job done.
That's it. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, thank you.
Next order of business, Mr. Hum, Conservation Commission Chair.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Julie, Denise, members of the public. On June 8th, I attended an event at the intersection of Lee, Madbury, and Durham to celebrate the acquisition of the Powder Major Forest. And at that event, I was presented with an award to bring to you all. And I have that with me this evening, and I would just like to read briefly. Town of Lee, with great appreciation for your leadership and partnership in conserving the Powder Major's forest in Madbury, Lee, and Durham. Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forest, 2017.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Gorgeous. I want to thank you, Bill, for all the hard work that you do and the Conservation Commission from doing the Powder Major, but I know there's other ones you've worked on in the past, so
Yes.
it's a lot of work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I guess we need to hang this, huh?
yeah,
Where would you like it hung? Putting the pressure on you.
I have no thoughts about
All right.
constraints.
Well, the board and the town administrator will have a,
we'll find a place.
we'll find a nice
We'll
spot.
hang it in the new town hall.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you. Mr. Stevens, Highway Supervisor, encumbering highway budget funds.
can say just a word about the irrigation to go back
Please.
a little bit. The problem with the drip system is the pump is really, it puts out about 70 pounds, needs 70 pounds of pressure to do the irrigation on the fields. And it has a great amount of volume, and there's no storage tanks there.
Mhm.
So to have a drip system, you'd have to put in, I believe, I talked to Gary from Hillside, I believe what you'd have to do is put in some storage bladder tanks, so that the pump would come on, fill the bladder tanks, and then the drip system would run off the bladder tanks, and then when the tanks get empty, much like your house.
Sure.
But you can't just hitch up a drip system to the irrigation. There is a control, there is a program in the irrigation control box that allows for a drip system, but you just have to somehow get that, you just can't hitch it up direct to what we have.
So you would just pump the tanks full, and then they would just
Peter out.
slowly settle down, and you refill it with
Yep,
it?
much like your house.
It's cleaner, yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
30 goes down to 30, pump comes on, charges up to 50. But, you know, you need some plumbing and some couple tanks, and then once you have those, you really need some kind of building over it. So that's the biggest thing.
Sounds
So
like-
anyway, back to what I was here for. We were hoping that we wouldn't have to encumber funds for paving, but with the weather and everything else, it's put the pavers behind. It's pretty hard for them to come in and do just $50,000 worth exactly, bring all the equipment from Belmont. So what I'm asking is $50,378.77 in the paving account, and I'd like to encumber that. And in addition, about 15,000 of the budget savings, which is about half what I anticipate there'll be. Some of the saving was, we had 6,000 balance in the salt budget and quite a bit in all the fuel budgets, because we figured it $350 and was down to $225 or whatever, so we saved some money there. Also, there is about $10,000 in the Little River Park maintenance, and that was mostly due because we're supposed to pay Oyster River ORYA for the mowing and the fertilization of last year's. This year, it's a different arrangement, but we've asked, Julie sent them emails, I sent them emails, I talked to them in person, and they apologize for not getting it to us, but we never see it. So I don't know if the board wants to encumber about $8,500 to cover that if they ever get the bill, or just say after July 1st, we're not gonna pay
Well,
them.
I mean, we do have a contract that says we will pay it,
Right.
so we have the contract,
So we can encumber?
we just need the invoices,
Yes.
so. Or we could try saying, we're sorry, it's July 1st.
Too bad, you didn't run.
So my estimate is $8,500, but I know the mowing's $5,000, and based on the years before, the fertilization and growth control and all that stuff is about $3,500, so I think if we did 85, we'd be pretty close.
So how much are we trying to encumber?
65
65. You have contracts, right?
for the paving.
From paving.
Okay.
Yeah, that's two different things.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to make sure we take care of this issue first. Therefore, I move to encumber $65,000 from the 2016-17 highway budget 01.43111 and assign the encumbered funds of the 2017 summer paving program be performed by GMI Paving, for which work the town has a signed contract.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, so that part's done. Okay, hopefully we'll get the rest done.
So can we deal with the irrigation issue?
Go ahead,
No.
make your comment.
So is this for last season, or is it for, is he
Oh,
doing?
not irrigation, the mowing
Oh, the
and
mowing.
fertilizing.
So can we deal with that now and just be done with it, or,
Deal with it in what sense?
well, in terms of encumbering it?
We have a contract, so
We
the
don't need to
contract
encumber it?
automatically creates the encumbrance.
It's automatically done.
All right, good.
Thanks for bringing that up. Thank you. Next item is Selectman Scott Bugby, staff training update.
I contacted Ann about doing some more staff training. She now has a real job.
Whoa.
She's not a consultant anymore, so she's not available during the week. So we have a couple options if we want to pursue that. One, she's got somebody, her name is Sue, I don't remember her last name, that she would recommend that could come in during the week. If we'd like to wait until the fall, Ann could do it on a non-weekday, like a Saturday or something like that. So So I don't know how we want to proceed, but that's our two options if we go that particular route. So,
My feeling is that probably summer's not a good time to do workshop. I would move for the fall no matter what happens,
okay.
in my opinion.
So then, do we wait for Ann, or do we, well, it sounds like we're gonna wait anyways.
Let's
but-
wait for Ann. Let's see what she does at this point.
So would it be amenable for the department heads to come on a weekend?
Hmm.
It's not ideal.
It's not
but-
ideal, but it could be
And
done.
we'd have to pay at least one of them.
Mhm.
So maybe we can discuss that at some point. I don't know if
We
want to do it
discuss
tonight.
something in the future, but definitely the fall.
Okay, so I'll let Ann know that, so.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of discussed in terms of what the next step
Mhm.
was, because there's a program.
Yes.
Okay, I'll give her that.
I'd like to make a note, I took umbrage at the consultant comment.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't make that.
Oh, no, not
Mr. Scott did that. Umbridge. Okay, we'll move on. Item number 8, Julie Glover, Town Administration.
Special duty revolving fund. Wondering whether the board wants to adopt some kind of policy relative to spending money out of the special duty revolving fund. Reason I say that is that the situation that we are in right now is that that fund currently has a negative balance of $13,000.
What's the recommendation from the finance officer?
To have a policy. I will say this, she's worked with the treasurer, and so now they're gonna do transfers of money from the special duty fund every time we do a payroll. And that, I think, will make a huge difference, it should make a huge difference in terms of knowing exactly how much is in that fund at any given time. That's really the reason I think that we got ourselves into the situation that we're in right now. Because in, I think it was November, there was $42,000. In January, the board, through the budget process, authorized paying almost $20,000 out of it for the radar trailer. And then at the same time, had a discussion about spending another $30,000 out of it for the in-car cameras. 10,000 of that will be reimbursed by a grant, but it still leaves us with a deficit. The other thing, the other lesson learned from this was that certainly it's easier to control this, I think, with items that are on the agenda, but that night was not an item that was on the agenda, and so a discussion ensued. And so I'm just gonna suggest going forward that if the board intends to instruct a department head to go ahead and do something, that we make sure that we craft a vote so that, a motion, so that everybody's crystal clear as to exactly what we're doing, because I think there was a little bit of fuzziness back in January in terms of this. But be that as it may, I don't know, again, whether you want to adopt a policy that says we're not gonna let the fund get below a certain amount, or now that we think we've got a little better control of how much money is in the fund at any given time, maybe this won't happen again. The other the other thing that led to this was, so in January, it appears the board said to the police chief, go ahead and buy the in-car cameras and use the money that's in the revolving fund. And there may have been money in the revolving fund in January. We didn't get the invoices until just a couple of weeks ago. So there was a big lag in time. So even if the money had been there in January, there's not necessarily a guarantee that it was gonna be there in June. But we can certainly try to craft some kind of policy where we don't let it get below a certain level, or but it's just something to be aware of.
I think I'm a big thing in policy. I think we should have policies, and especially, so the fire department has special duty now. Don't they have a special duty account?
They also contribute to this fund.
Yeah, as well. So I think it's two entities at this point. Maybe a simple policy can be drawn up, and then maybe a minimum balance should be maintained. Some minimum floor. I'm not sure what that exactly is.
There's two entities money going into it, there's also two entities spending out of it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Not necessarily, I mean, where does it come together, I guess, at Joanne, as far as, well, in other words, theoretically, if there was 10,000 in the fund, two people could write a check for 10,000, and you'd be overdrawn.
Well, yes, but in terms of expenses coming out of that account other than payroll, the select board needs to approve those expenses.
Okay.
So if we had a simple policy that would come in front of us, at least we know where it is every single time, how much
Right.
money's in
We
there.
just need to know what the
Yeah.
balance is after.
And maybe we keep a minimum balance in there, so maybe it doesn't drop below some floor.
Yeah.
Maybe the finance officer can come up with a recommendation.
Can you clarify the 13,000, does that include the 10,000 that we're supposed to get back?
No.
That hasn't come in yet?
No.
So maybe we can hear from the chief about
Please.
that, because that would make it.
Oh, I forgot to add something, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The chief also has money left over in this fiscal year, $7,000, which we could apply some of the expenses for the cameras to that, so that would change that $13,000.
And there's 14,000 will come back. 10,000 for the in-car cameras and 4,000 from the other related equipment. So there's,
So flat out?
yeah, the e-citation I talked about, the officers can print the summonses right in the cruisers now.
Mhm.
That was about 3,800. We've got 100% of that will be paid back in. So there's 14,000
So it'll
there.
balance out in the end.
So
And then we've
now we're
got,
positive.
we'll have 7,
Mhm.
so there's 21.
I guess we're good then.
Okay.
You're okay with a small policy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Scott? Yeah, I just, some way.
And I, again, I
policy.
think what we need to do is, because I had to actually do a warrant article to be able to expend from that account, so I don't know, maybe the fire department should do the same thing.
Please.
Well, the warrant article expands the uses of the fund.
So it doesn't say just,
I don't think so.
I think it's public safety or something, so
Yeah.
both could do it.
Yeah.
I think we opened it, try to make it as wide as we could.
So can we discuss in terms of, because now we seem to have more than enough money,
Mhm.
but so do we want to keep the balance at this particular fund at 0, or do we want to put some back into it? I think because if he's got 7, we were expecting 14, that's 21.
Mhm.
So do we make his end of year balance 0, or do we put the extra money? I would like to keep the sum in there, but I don't think we should charge all of it to him. His
No, I agree,
department.
at this point.
So can we
But we should
clarify?
put some in.
Go ahead.
Well, unless you're gonna run out and spend $7,000 in the next 11 days,
and 7,000 is comfortable, actually, we're gonna have a little
Money's-
bit more, but I left a little in case something
Then we should.
the
put it
money's
in.
just,
happened.
I shouldn't say just, but the money is going back to the fund balance.
Yeah, so it'd be good to put it back into this.
Let's just, not that that's good or bad, but
No, I understand, but at the same time,
It's, I mean, it's a joint account, right? You said
Understand.
just him, but I mean, it's a joint account, so
Understand.
they come to the board and,
and if the chief's amenable, we might as well put the money in there at this point, because I'm trying to get a minimum balance, I'm not sure what it should be.
Well, maybe we should discuss that, because that, if that's the case, 21 minus 14, that leaves 7,000 in there.
mhm.
Can we ask the finance officer what her recommendation
Well,
would
she
be?
wants 20,
She wants 20.
as far as I remember.
Well, I think that was before she came up with the idea of transferring
Right.
every pay period.
I think it's
So
something like
that'll
10.
give her a better idea every time, and we're actually, I've made quite a few phone calls to the vendors, and payments are coming in more regularly now.
Mhm.
So it's, I think it's gonna be easier for her to keep track of it.
I'd like to make a recommendation of 10. I think that would be a good spot, see how it goes.
Well, we don't have enough for that.
Well, that's just what we're trying to aim for, so
Oh,
as,
aim for it.
we're aiming for 10,
I
not,
mean, within another 4 or 5 weeks.
You'll have it.
The money's gonna be coming in.
so a minimum balance to try to get 10.
And again, this was an odd, I don't ever foresee us
I know.
buying 2 big-ticket items like this again.
Well, we could buy a police car.
So, well, the town of Stratford buys a police cruiser, buys a police
I'm
cruiser
sure you could,
with
man.
their detail money.
Fire trucks, though, a little more expensive.
Just a little bit. If we buy one of those little fire trucks.
A little fire
Big
truck.
fire truck. So why don't we craft a policy that says that we'll aim to keep 10,000
Keep
in that
10,000,
particular
yeah.
account?
as a minimum balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, sounds good, thank you very much. What else do you have?
I think that's everything.
Move to item number 9, motion, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, motion carries.
Oh.
There's a little moment there.
I did the way I did, no, no, no. I'll take these out of here.
Is it supposed to rain tonight?
Yes.
Supposed to, more than rain, I thought.
More than rain?
Today.
I mean, just a lot of rain.
Like heavy rain,
Yeah.
super duper rain.
When I looked before I came, there's big red things coming down.
Huh?
Big red. Just
Oh, really?
I guess up north, they got pounded, over in Keene, they got powdered. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. So, she has a real job. She's not a consultant anymore.
Those are her terms, not mine.
Well, back, I made more money as a consultant than I was as a
Insurance.
professor.
So she's getting older, so she's figuring she,
You're not gonna let this one go, are you?
No, that makes sense.
he thinks he's digging, but he's gonna just dig himself into a hole, and that means he doesn't get any chocolate next
Oh,
time.
God. What's this little cross out with a little 5 on here?
Put the wrong date in.
I'm missing 3 and a little,
Numbering, little number problem.
it was just a day.
That's automatic.
Got everything?
I told you,
Thank you.
because I, don't you remember?
Yes, I do now.
Okay, item number 10, I move to accept the public and non-public meeting minutes from June 5th, 2017.
June
Fifth.
5th?
Yeah,
Fifth.
Oh, mine says June 9th.
it does. John's doesn't, isn't that funny?
Mine doesn't.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
So is the town secretary having like chocolate withdrawal now that she's making these mistakes?
I've been keeping awake.
Oh, and I think that the police chief is no longer requesting to go non-public, so we're going to.
Okay, let's cross that out under 2. That's a piece of the other thing.
A piece of wood.
Public minutes.
Let Denise figure it out.
Yeah, just give it a stack. Don't ever worry about that, I just throw it over that one.
Oh, okay.
I move to accept the manifest 25 and weeks payroll ending June 18, 2017. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, motion carries.
Oh, I didn't sign.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. I looked that way, I gave you that
Oh,
look.
sorry. Yes,
He
I,
was too busy picking on
I'm
me.
sorry.
so-
Well, he's all worried about this damn chocolate thing, you know?
Yep, yep.
And the fact that he's just a mere consultant. Oh, he's not a mere consultant.
A mere consultant,
Mere
yeah.
consultant.
This- I guess I have to
Ruby
find a
Parker this
real
week.
job.
You gotta find a real job instead of sitting around, you know?
Yes, it-
What?
She put one little tag for each one of us.
Hmm. What's next?
Jack, will you say that?
Denise is driving me nuts here. Okay. Look at all these little tags.
That's Joanne.
One for each of us.
And no offense, but some people frequently miss signing things, so.
That is funny.
It is funny. It is funny. Well, somebody got an orange one, I got a green one. It must mean something. Item 12, move to enter a non-public session, New Hampshire RSA 91-8:311, Personnel 2, A, C, and L. Roll call. Mr. Bugby.
Second.
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. LaCourse. Yes. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We're done.
I have one more thing for you.
These are not sealed. I move to seal the minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Bugby?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. LaCourse, yes. This is one that's sealed. Okay. Unfinished business. Anybody have any further comments?
An update from the Facilities Committee. Our subcommittee had a meeting with the library, because we did a look at the town hall, we had a look at the Historical Society and the current town hall, and we thought we should do the same thing with the library, so we did that with them. We got some reduced space needs from them. It's called the bare bones. I think we can probably take a little bit more off, but we're gonna work up numbers for those particular reductions. Before that, we were looking for doing everything about 3.2 to 3.7 million for doing everything. So with this reduction, that'll probably get us down into the sub 3 million to a little bit over 3 million. So we're going to finalize those numbers. We're going to also give the board, in terms of recommendations, in terms of funding sources, just recommendations, we can do whatever we want. So we're on schedule to do the presentation, so we'll have information by the end of August.
And what's the status with the church property?
Nothing changed since the
Their
town
meeting is
administrator.
tonight, I think,
Yeah,
or
so-
today or tonight.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So we don't know. I don't know anything new about that, so.
So I
So
can
we'll
say
see.
no. From the planning board the other day, there is a person interested in buying the, what was the university system, remember the other building?
Oh,
up-
yep.
Yeah,
And it's a
up on Road
clinician.
4 there?
Yeah, there's a clinician from, I think, from Newmarket, and she wants to expand her business. She thinks it'd be a perfect spot. I think, of course, the University of New Hampshire is very happy to sell it at this point.
Actually, I've been surprised that it's stayed vacant this long. It's
Yeah.
a nice piece of
It
property.
is a very nice piece of property. The fire chief was there to discuss the issues of needs for fire and everything else, so hopefully that'll get done. It'll be back on the tax rolls, because both those buildings were off the tax roll for many
Yeah.
years, as you know.
So is she gonna like renovate the building, or is it, she gonna stay within the footprint of it?
She's gonna stay within the footprint. There's some inside activity in one wing. She's gonna knock a couple walls out, they're not load bearing, and open up for a small conference room. There'll probably be several clinicians that'll be in there, not necessarily full-time, but part-time ones that'll rotate in and out.
So is she a GP or is she a specialist?
She's a specialist.
Oh,
Okay. So at least it'll be used, of course, we're dealing with small issues, parking, and making sure no parking issues and lighting and the traditional things, but it looks like it's gonna go through, so
that's good.
happy to talk about that. Then the second thing that was a major discussion was Bedrock Gardens.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
At this point here, we're allowing them to continue with some restrictions. One is obviously they have to have a detail out there every time they have an event, to keep the cars off the road itself. The noise has to be down, no idling buses throwing out belching smoke, that kind of things. There was quite a contingency of people there, but I mean, obviously, a lot of neighbors were concerned. Obviously, the Bedrock Gardens has a name for itself. It's a beautiful garden, there's no question about it. So we want to see this thing work, but we got them on a tether. Now, they're talking about putting in a parking lot for 100 cars, plus the
Wow.
one they already have already.
Where would they do that?
It looks like it'd be on the 125 side.
In the woods there, just?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, and that's the discussion. I guess there's the, I don't remember the name of it, but one of the conservatories is going to manage the property. I don't know if it's being given or sold or what happens, but there will be somebody to manage the property in the end. Because obviously, the owners could, they can't do it. Obviously, they're not going to hold on to it forever. So I think this is positive. It's moving in the right direction. The feet is on the fire, trying to take care of what some of the neighbor needs are. They do appreciate it, but, you know, you can't have all the cars parked on the street when you have 400 cars on Hall Road. It just doesn't work at this point.
Because it is a residential neighborhood, so.
It's a residential neighborhood, it's also a scenic road.
Mhm.
And that's it on the planning board.
Okay.
Please.
Heritage Commission has a response for Selectman Brown. You requested us to look in, yeah, it's your fault.
Don't look at me.
No, it's your fault.
This is the
Um,
barn plaques?
The barn plaques. We've looked into that. We've contacted the lady that's part of the state, I don't remember what it's from. She's got a long name, the place she works for. But we talked to her about the idea. And she said the state doesn't have anything, and she doesn't know of anybody that has this, but she likes the idea. So she's gonna do some research for us and get back to us in terms of what the sign could look like, what does it say, and deals like that.
Good.
But she says nobody's done that, so we're kind of breaking new
Oh,
ground.
that's interesting.
And Heritage Commission likes the idea, so we're gonna pursue it for you, or for the town. So, but there was some people that have barn easements for the town, and they kind of like the idea. Just as long as it's not mandatory, it's if you want to. And supposedly, the ones that we talked to, they don't have any issues with it. Just as long, the big thing is, just because it's on my barn, doesn't mean people can come in the public and just, so it's not a public
No,
invitation.
I envision just a little trifold thing, you know, a trail of old barns, whatever, that's all.
That was their big concern. They didn't want people coming into the yard to see their barn. They just,
Right.
they were concerned about that.
Okay, good.
The second thing is the signage for the thing that Jack Hall's doing on Cartland Road and Thompson
Yes.
Mill. So Heritage Commission is going to look into that and see about making a sign for the road, making a sign to interpret the site, and put us another sign at the Cartland Road end. There's no parking on Cartland Road end, but
Right.
just to give people an idea. So they're looking at doing those three signs.
Oh, great.
So that's something they're working on.
Thank you.
Anything else? Denise? Move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.